Hello, and welcome to Maximal Fire. I'm Alex.
And I'm Johnny.
And we were right. So, Johnny, here we are. Not Epic has officially been announced, which is a good thing, I guess, because we've been talking about it for so long and kind of pinning some reputations on it from the sneak peeks that we've seen all year. But I think in doing so, we've kind of been a bit hoisted by our own petard, because we've now got more content to talk about in one episode of Maximal Fire than we've probably had in the last 18 months.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, there is a few pages.
Yes, there's a few pages. For our notes for today's particular podcast, I prepared a presentation that I've sent over to Johnny of all of the things that we need to discuss and walk through, and we'll obviously be putting up those images as well on our YouTube version of this podcast. But today's episode is going to focus mostly, quite largely, on the hotly anticipated Legions Imperialis. So there's been a lot of questions around the Discord community about what this means for the channel, and I'll sort of start right off the bat with saying that AT is still our first love. We will continue to do AT related activity. We are hoping, however, and what we are going to do going forwards is include Legions Imperialis in our repertoire, so to speak. So they're obviously adjacent, both heresy, they're both 8mm, same scale, around that sort of area. So yes, we're going to try and cover both, and in a lot of cases, what is released for one will directly impact AT as well. So we've already started talking about the events that we're running. Beachhead is still entirely going to be a AT focused event. However, we are looking at seeing if we have it in us and the capacity to run an adjacent Legions Imperialis event alongside. So that won't take anything away from the AT event. We still plan on that being one of the biggest AT events in the calendar, sort of akin to last year. But just to kind of be upfront about what we're going to do, you're going to hopefully see some Legions bat reps coming in the near future.
We definitely will.
We'll probably be sharing the content on the podcast fairly equally, depending on what there is to talk about. But no, very excited. I'm really, really happy that this has happened. Everything that we kind of hoped would come of this so far, Johnny, I think you'd agree, has happened. You know, we've seen more content announced for AT as a result of this, which we'll go into later. And the kind of mainstream element of Legions Imperialis, I think, is going to go a long way to helping AT. So,
yeah, 100%, 100%. Just having the starter box alone is, such a big boon, because we were kind of hoping and predicting that they would do kind of the same thing with AT, where you have like either one really big force or two forces that can go up against each other, and they've done pretty much the same here as well, which is awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah. And if you look at any of the Warcom articles as well, they very much affirmed their commitment still to AT. Aeronautica, unfortunately, has taken a little bit of a hit. It's still around as a game, but like they are discontinuing all of the Xenos races, which is an interesting decision to make. I think that's a shame. I think some of the Xenos races were really interesting to play. it feels a little bit like the death knell of Aeronautica Imperialis, I think, unfortunately, to me.
Yeah, they did stress that you can still play, or they're still going to support Heresy Aeronautica, right? Their Heresy supplement for it. But I don't know what that's going to involve. Whether they're just going to support it by keep printing it, or whether they'll release new content for it. Who knows, right?
Yeah, it's one of those games where I think it's got a bigger following in the States than it has in the UK. So there's not very much Aeronautica stuff that happens in the UK. So I'm not really surprised, but I'm aware that it's a bit more popular overseas. So I'm sure that there's plenty of people who are a bit gutted by this news. But I guess if you've already got the forces that you want, you can still continue playing with them. It's just it's sad that some of those models are not going to be released for a while, because there's some really interesting, cool models out there, like the Valkyries and the Vendettas. Great models. But anyway, what we lose with AI, we're obviously gaining with LI, as we're going to call it from now on. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue as well, does it, as AT? But
no.
Yeah, Legions Imperialis. We'll try and keep it as clear as we can and not getting confused with Star Wars.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Star Wars Legion.
Yeah.
LI.
LI. Yeah. Legion.
LI.
Yeah. Legions Imperialis is a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? But LI will do. Before we get into it, we'll do a few kind of quick bits of news and admin. So first off, just want to say a big thank you to our new Patreon supporters, Colin, Dick and PowerPoint Pro, who have joined us since we did our last podcast. Thank you very much, guys. Most appreciated. Obviously, if you do want to continue to support the show, Patreon is one way that you can do it, and you can back us from as little as £1, and all of that money gets reinvested into the channel or into the events that we're running. We're currently on a mad terrain grab session at the moment, as we realise that all of the terrain that we've got for AT is obviously perfect for LI, but
we need twice the amount.
We're lacking the smaller stuff. Yeah, there's some. We've got lots of blocking terrain, but it's the scatter terrain and sort of smaller ruins, I think, which are going to be a lot more important and a lot more relevant for LI. So we're currently on a mission to kind of build up our stockpile of that, so we can get some cool bat reps out there, and also potentially in the future run some more events. So with that kind of in mind, I am able to announce a new sponsor of the show, and that is Troublemaker Games. So if you haven't heard of Troublemaker Games, they do some great 8mm terrain, which we've already been using. You may have seen some of it on the bat reps at the moment. We've largely used their air pads and also some of their Gothic ruins sections. But yeah, really great guys. I'm really happy to have them on board. You'll be seeing a lot more of Troublemaker Games terrain in our LI bat reps in the future, and probably some of our AT bat reps as well. And also just a quick plug for them. I don't know if the Kickstarter has now ended. I don't know if there is any kind of a way to sort of late back, or if not, just keep an eye out for it. They announced City Crushers a couple of months ago, which was a very orky style looking AT game, which looked a lot of fun. So if you do see that, check it out on the internet, see if you can do a late pledge, or if not, watch when it drops in the future, I guess. Busy getting all of that together. So yeah, thank you to Troublemaker Games, and great to have you on board. With regards to our other sponsors, if you are a purveyor of Battle Bling, another way you can support the show if you don't want to do Patreon, or you don't have an account with Patreon, you can use the affiliate link, which is going to be in our description of the show. And every time you access Battle Bling's website using our affiliate link, the channel gets a small amount in return. So if you're planning on buying anything from Battle Bling, you can If you can do that through the link, we obviously get a small kickback. And if you're a patron at £3 or more, you also get access to a 10% off voucher. And if you use that voucher code at Battle Bling as well, the same thing also happens. So multiple ways to support the show and help us continue to make content going forwards.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Battle Bling.
Shout out to Battle Bling, yeah. Okay. I think we've got so much content here, Johnny. Let's just jump straight in.
We're going to power through it.
Yeah, otherwise we'll be here all night. So let's jump into Legions Imperialis. So why don't you, for anybody who missed any of the reveals or has been in a cave for the last few weeks or just doesn't look at the Games Workshop socials, what is Legions Imperialis?
So, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, a Games Workshop game existed called Epic. And it was essentially tiny scale, 8 or 6 mil scale Warhammer 40,000. Well, it was back in the day. It meant that you could have a load of, Titans, tanks, infantry, aircraft, and just like recreate huge battles that you couldn't feasibly do with normal 28 mil models, because take up an entire room and remortgage the house for it.
Which some people have done and some people do anyway.
Yeah, looking at you, Titan Owner Club. And so recently it has been announced that they are releasing its spiritual successor, which just focuses on the time of the Horus heresy, which, if you didn't know, is also when Adeptus Titanicus is set as well. And there is just in this big ass starter box, over 100 miniatures. You've got Space Marines, you've got human militia, you've got tanks of all variety, loads of tanks, a few dreadnoughts, and of course a couple of Titans. And I am so goddamn excited. I think it's fair to say this is going to be sick. I think, it's just going to be awesome, right? It's going to be such a refreshing way to be able to use our Titans. And also, at the scale, you can really recreate. I'm a big Horus heresy enjoyer, and I read the books, although I don't really play much of the game. And man, just the idea of being able to recreate some of these later battles, especially like Siege of Terror, a little bit more realistically than if you try to do it in 28 mil. So yeah, goddamn.
And there's probably a whole generation of gamers out there who have never experienced Epic. This was, well, it originally started back in the early 90s as Space Marine. Then it was re-released kind of mid-90s, I believe it was, as Epic 40,000. And then in the early 2000s, it was re-released as Epic Armageddon. But then kind of mid-2000s, it went the way of a lot of the specialist games did around that sort of time. And unfortunately, we've not seen it for the past 15, 16 years or so. So there is a whole generation of gamers out there who've never experienced what they're calling epic scale gaming. And it does bring to the fore kind of a few additional challenges and also opportunities. So these miniatures are significantly smaller than what you're used to painting. In fact, they reckon they're about 1/4 the size of what you would normally see on a 28mm game of 40k or Horus Heresy. So a lot smaller, but that obviously means that you get a lot of opportunities to paint more. And to your point, they very much kind of focused on this is a grand strategy game. where you're not expected to necessarily even collect one force. You are a distant general looking down, kind of giving orders to entire detachments, battalions of infantry. So your force very, very well may consist of, Blood Angels and White Scars facing off against Death Guard and Emperor's Children at the Walls of Terror. And you might even have a few kind of, a Lehman Russ tank company backing you up, for instance. So whereas the other games, you see that occasionally, and especially in, I see it more in the Horus Heresy, you kind of sometimes get some Ultramarines and Fists fighting together in the same force. Very, very nice set of that by Meda's Miniatures. If you've ever been on Instagram and seen Meda's Miniatures, he's got a lovely mixed Horus Heresy force of Ultramarines and Fists. But this seems to be baked into the whole the whole idea of the game, and this is what's quite exciting about me, because I've always wanted to try and play some White Scars, but the idea of painting 28mm White Scars has never really appealed to me, because that's a lot of white, and
that
it's a tricky color to paint, right? Like, it's not impossible, but to make it look good, make it look right, you've got to spend some time on it. Whereas this will give me the opportunity to scratch that White Scars itch, hopefully, at a much smaller scale where that is a little bit more forgiving. And I very much like the idea of massed ranks of jet bikes, which would be prohibitively expensive to do in other systems. But maybe kind of doing like a themed force around the retaking of the Lionsgate spaceport, and have then an entire, company of Lehman Russ escorting like the White Scars. So you can already see kind of the way that we're thinking about this. You can like a lot more theme, a lot more accessible kind of ideas on a much smaller scale, which you can then use to fight these truly epic size games. Like, it will already have been announced by the time this video has gone up, but we've actually decided that we're going to do an old school style Tale of Seven Gamers, similar to what we did in the original Clash of the Titans. So the original Clash of the Titans was in 2021, I think it was.
Yep.
And this was where there was about 7 or 8 of us, and we set ourselves monthly challenges, and then we posted about it, multiple images, and people followed and commented, and it was a way of us kind of keeping ourselves focused on our task at hand, while also kind of like having opportunity. In fact, this very podcast was spawned out of that first Clash of the Titans, and then from that, as many of you will know, that kind of spawned the wider global Clash of the Titans in the last 2 years, which has been supported quite heavily by BattleBling. Now, because we didn't really know too much, and there's not, we can't physically get the models out yet for LI, we thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of go back to basics. And we are now doing, as of July, middle of July, running for the next 3 or 4 months, we're going to be doing what did we call it in again? Clash of Legions.
Clash of Legions, yeah.
Clash of Legions.
Yeah, that's it.
And this is going to be just 7 of us, who you will probably, for the vast majority of you, already know, the likes of Johnny Core from the BattleBling store. He's joining us. Oliver and Matt, who also supports the Maximal Fire Discord server, have been on a couple of bat reps, podcasts, etc. They're going to be getting involved, and returning prodigal son Ben Davey is also taking part in the efforts as well. And we're going to be sort of supplementing what we're posting on Instagram with articles. We'll probably do a few videos, and yeah, just looking to kind of maybe even a few live streams. So we will see. But obviously for the next month or so, we don't have anything LI specific to do, because LI has been announced to be released in August. Now, whether that means the beginning of August or the end of August, we don't quite know. So we are going to be probably painting a lot of Knights, Titans, or
Aeronautica.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be month 1, and then maybe just change the basing on our Aeronautica models. But yes, anyway, talking about basing, the new Warhound bases.
Yep.
Well, they're not just new Warhound bases, new bases for Titans in general. What's your thoughts on that, Johnny?
I like the original thicker bases. I think visually, but alongside Legion Imperialis armies, it would look a little bit weird if the base was almost as high as like a squadron of Marines. You know what I mean? So I can see its use. I think both are completely usable, right? So in either game, they're both the same size. They're just their height difference, really. So yeah, do what you want. I'll probably be rebasing some Titans, but that's only if I can be bothered, which is very slim at the moment with this box alone just to deal with.
And like you say, it's entirely unnecessary, really.
Yeah.
I mean, they have said that your existing bases will be fine to use in AT, and you even called the reason why we saw the thinner bases back in that live stream that we did 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
So, I personally, I mean, I've got a lot of Titans. I don't need to rebase any of them, but if I want to paint any more, I think I'm just going to be now doing. I think what I've decided to do is I will do Legio Ignatum to go with my White Scars.
Cool.
But they're all going to be on the new Aeronautica base, the new LI bases. And this is going to give me an opportunity, really, to paint Titans in a Legio scheme that I don't have without having to put any pressure on myself to paint enough for an entire mana pool. So
exactly.
I can just paint the odd Titan in. I mean, to be honest, it doesn't even have to be. They don't even have to be the same Legio, like especially towards
as
the
a
end.
loyalist. Yeah, they're all kind of going out towards the end. Obviously, we don't know if there's going to be like faction specific bonuses yet or anything like that, or if there are any restrictions on mixing legios, but I can't see why there would be.
No, I quite like the idea of a ragtag bunch of Titans. I had an idea ages ago as well. I was going to do Invicta, like literally made up of different legios. So that's
different legios. Yeah,
that's another thing that you can do. But it wasn't really the bases, was it, that caught everybody's eye when they displayed the magnificent contents of the box? And we'll bring up a picture of the contents of the box here. It was more what was going on with the rest of the Warhounds.
Yeah, so we've got some new guns, and because it's going to be in a plastic box set, they're going to be new to plastic. So very, very exciting.
Yeah.
We have got Ursus Claws, Natrix Shock Lances, a Volkite Eradicator, a Missile Pod with a choice of Swarmer or Shudder missiles, and an Incisor Pattern Melter Lance. I really, really want to see the stats for that Melter Lance.
My initial thoughts on that was it was going to be the same as the shoulder weapons on a War Master, because they'd already released the stats for that, like a shorter ranged, one less strength version of a regular melter. But that isn't called an incisor pattern melter lance, which makes me think it's going to actually be something a little bit different, which would be good to see.
I would be very interested. Will it replace the plasma blast gun as the top dog for the kind of heavy hitting shot with Warhounds?
Yeah, I mean,
will it become the new tournament pattern?
Will it be a melter without blast? How will that kind of figure in a Ferox mana pool? because all of these weapons, obviously the majority of these are already available in AT, but these new ones are also going to be available in AT. And unless they're planning on putting the rules for these in the box, which they've never done before, I would expect that maybe we will see a re-release in the future on AT's in AT of another updated weapon card packs, because at the moment there's a lot of weapons which aren't included in those packs. But yeah, the Shudder and Swarmer missiles as well. So, I mean, this is obviously wording from an LI perspective. However, it does beg the question as to whether or not that will translate into AT, because it would imply that they could very well not be Apocalypse missile launchers. Again, like you've got on the War Master, the Apocalypse missile array, that was my initial thought. Oh, surely it'd just be the same as one of those. But maybe we will see Swarmer missiles being their own thing, Shudder missiles being their own thing. Maybe, I mean, Shudder to me, Quake?
Concussive
maybe?
Quake, yeah.
Something like that. Swarmer, maybe 100%. Rapid. So, yeah, it would be interesting to see what's coming out of that. But obviously all of these weapons before were only available in Forge World, so seeing them being taken from resin, put into plastic, I think a couple of these things that we've seen really do kind of silence the naysayers who've been, the sky is falling in, 80's a dead game.
80's dead, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I very nearly wanted to call this podcast 80 is dead, long live AT. But
no, I don't want to be labelled with that, even if it is a joke.
Yeah, I thought a good clickbait. But yeah, so your Volkites, your nature, like I say, Natrix Shot Lance and the Ursus Claws. I thought that was an interesting choice to have in the LI box set, unless they work completely differently to how they work in AT, which I wouldn't be surprised if they do, because the Ursus Claws are pretty damn useless in anything night scale or smaller. So I wonder if they've only been included in these photos to showcase the plastic weapons rather than them necessarily being specifically good within LI. We'll see, I guess. One thing I do wonder is if we're going to see a return of the turbo laser destructor, because that's kind of a bit of a poor cousin, isn't it, in AT? Like, some people take that. Usually you take it when you can't afford a plasma. The 2 shots, no blast, etc. It does see a bit of play, but doesn't see a tremendous amount of play. And the thing that always I found quite weird was that in 40k and Apocalypse, and it always was a blast, and there was no blast in AT. So I wonder if we'll see a return of blast on the turbo laser destructors, and as a result, I think there might be a little bit of a renaissance in the turbo lasers when we go into AT. So magnetize those Titans, guys, because I think what's good in AT might not necessarily be good in LI and vice versa. I wouldn't be surprised if the plasma blast gun is pretty middling in LI. So interesting. But obviously all cross-compatible and a great opportunity if you don't get a lot of use out of one in one game, magnetize, get that use out of it in the other game.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
But the I think the biggest surprise that nobody really asked for was the release of or the announcement of a plastic direwolf set, and not only a plastic direwolf, but a double box of plastic direwolves.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it comes with a new weapon, this conversion beam dissipator, which is obviously not a conversion beam weapon that's been released so far in AT. And it would imply it's kind of a Reaver scale in the middle sized conversion beam. So nice that it's now got another weapon that makes it its own. Really interesting to see where that'll sit between the extirpator and is it the dissolutor? The one down from it? The
Yes. Yeah.
Warhound one. But I think the best thing about these plastic direwolves is they've changed the pose. It's almost like they listened to the criticism, and they've now given it a bit of a walking pose. A little bit disappointed that they've not given us alternative, like to the alternatives to the Vulcans. I was hoping we'd get like another set of paired weapons, but it sounds like that is going to be what it is.
The weapons, yeah.
But the reason I said at the beginning of this segment, like nobody asked for, is it's an interesting choice to release a box set of 2. I understand why, because it's probably the similar sized frame to a Warhound who want to price it the same. But there's not many people in AT, certainly, which are going to get a lot of use out of 2 direwolves. Unless maybe we are going to see a maniple in the future, maybe a new book released.
That'd be very cool.
Which goes around direwolves, maybe 2 direwolves and a maniple. I hope so. That would mean more content for AT. So I would like to see that. But
I see it's quite a surprising move from an LI perspective, right? You know, having a Titan Hunter as, you know, a Titan that you'd bring. Like at that point, if you're having to hunt Titans, are you just playing Titanicus? Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they're thinking quite cleverly about this, because the way that the area where the direwolf was positioned price wise was really good, like 35 quid when it was released, and they've sold a bucket load of them. So whether this seems to be any good in LI remains to be seen, but as with what we've seen with the weapons, maybe this was just another move to bring the resin components into the mainstream plastic. So thinking about AT still, and not just LI. So fingers crossed. You know, I would like to think that they're being intelligent about this sort of stuff and thinking about that. But the question that's burning in my mind, and I'm wondering if we're going to see something announced in the next weeks or so, and who knows, there'll be a Heresy Thursday before this drops probably, so you may well find out before this podcast drops, but there's a lot of resin warlord weapons still out there which are widely used, like the Gatling, particularly the Gatling, and the Gatling up top carapace option.
Yep.
And we also don't have that that head. What's it called? The very famous Solaria Forge World miniature that they've got of it in the dock. It's got that very unique Cylon-esque head, and I forget the name of what version of it is off the top of my head. The one that Battle Bling do.
Oh.
Yes, that one.
I just want to say Odious, but it's not Odious. What is it?
Everybody's probably shouting into their computers right now. But yeah, there was a limited edition head at Forge World, like very classic. You see it in all of the books. Has never been released in plastic, so maybe we'll also see a new Warlord box set, which should maybe come with, again, some of those weapons like the Gatling, or maybe they might go the route of the Imperial Knight and bundle all of this into one box set with multiple different weapon options available, and maybe charge a little bit more for it, but you get a good selection of all of the weapons.
Yeah, 100%.
That'd be great. I think that would be great.
Awesome.
And seeing what we've seen already, I wouldn't be surprised if they are pushing to move out of Forge World and everything into the mainstream plastic release. So yeah, very, very excited about those. Even if they are kind of like a almost like a what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just too excited. So,
yeah, it's too good, isn't it?
So shall we talk about the LI box set and what you get inside of it?
Hell yeah. A lot of stuff. I think it's fair to say. A lot of stuff.
Yeah. A lot of small stuff.
A lot of small stuff. Very interested to see what the multi-part kit actually looks like. Is it going to be like a marine per, just a single marine as a sculpted bit, or is it going to be a multi-part and you're using tweezers?
Oh my god!
Can you imagine?
Yeah, separate heads.
Separate. Oh god. Yeah, you're like picking the heads up with a paintbrush because it's just so light and fine.
Yeah, I hope not, because I lose enough stuff on my carpet
Mm-hmm.
in this room as is. I don't need any of that. But yeah, the box set is split in half. Like as we already mentioned, it comes with 2 warhounds, but it also then comes with half the box is Solar Auxilia, and half the box is Space Marines, which is it's great to see 2 different forces. They've also said that you probably can split this with a friend, but like what you get in the box here is actually probably likely to be a small part of your army, which makes you think that it is going to be considerably bigger in scale. Whether or not this is going to be one of those games where 2 starter sets is a good place to start, I wouldn't be surprised, because there's going to be plenty of people out there wanting Lehman Russes or more Predators. And yes, they come in the box. So we've got some Predators. What else do we have? We've got some Sakaran battle tanks. We've got some Contemptor dreadnoughts. Multiple different sprues of scenery, including what are they called? Assault troops. And Cataphractic Terminators. Then the Auxilia, you've got some Ogrins in there. You've got some Malcadors. Some general kind of
new weird Sentinel Walker.
What are they called again?
It's got a very funny name, hasn't it?
They are called. Where is it on my notes?
Aethon Heavy Sentinel.
There you go, the Aethon Heavy Sentinels. Yeah, they do look very, very cool.
So many tanks in that box.
Yeah,
so many tanks,
but not enough.
5, 6, 11 tanks, and that's not enough.
Yeah, not enough. But yeah, great start. I'm looking forward to painting the whole lot up, and I'm going to incorporate it all in my force when I start doing it. What's your thoughts on price? Where do you think this is going to come in at?
120.
That would be my guess. I reckon 120.
Maybe 140, but I think 140 is pushing it a little bit.
It depends on if they announce another box set, but I don't think that they will do at this time. But there's no terrain in this box, and it's normally terrain which kind of pumps up the price. If you think about the AT box set, that's 100 quid RRP at the moment, and that comes with 2 Reavers and 2 Knights on top of all of this. So I think there's probably more plastic here than in the AT box, but I don't think it will be vastly more than that. So yeah, I reckon 120 is probably where I'm going to put my my dollars. I wouldn't be surprised if it's less. I hope it's not going to be more.
I would be surprised. I would be surprised if it was less. I think they've definitely got to be careful that they don't set the price too high as like a business decision, because this is kind of it's a bit of a leap, right? Like, it's not like the entire 40k fan base was crying for the return of Epic, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't think they want to kind of put people off of the price.
The reason I think it could possibly be less is that all of that infantry, I think, could probably fit on 2 double sprues.
Very true. Yeah.
And, the Warhound comes on 3 sprues.
2 sprues?
Weapons, armor, body. So I reckon that there'll probably be 3, 4 sprues maybe for the tanks.
Yeah.
Um,
Super curious how everything goes together. I really am.
Yeah, so I think that we're going to be in that kind of. I think you could easily fit this in with the similar amount of sprues as what we're seeing in the AT box, but we'll until we see more detail, then we couldn't really possibly say anything more, I guess. But yeah, we've not yet seen any new. The only things that they've announced unit-wise have been the AT tanks, haven't they? AT Titans. They've not announced any new, as of this point, they've not announced any new units. There's a lot of rumours going around about the other stuff that's going to be coming out. Unfortunately, on that list that I've seen, no jet bikes.
No.
No Land Raiders was on that leaked list either. But we'll see rhinos, I think. Those would be the obvious ones. Individual box sets for everything that you see here. I think the Knights are getting a repackage.
That'd be cool.
And I reckon that the Forge World Knights will see a plastic release, which would be good. Again, all rebranded. And there's a lot of stuff which is not available at the moment on AT, and I believe this is just because they're all holding back stock.
Repacked. Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that'll assuage people's doubts.
100%.
But miniatures aside, it's not just where. Again, this is like I normally we take one of these kind of announcements and we probably spend a whole podcast talking about it. But there's too much to kind of get through. The next big AT relevant release is the new terrain. So we're getting the ruined versions of the Civitas set,
which is extremely sick.
Yeah, it looks great, and there's some great images on there. There's one in particular that they released of them two Cerastus Knight Lancers and a Malcador advancing, and you can kind of see in that photo
in the ruined building.
Yeah, because that was the one thing which was really missing from the previous set. You didn't really obviously need any of that for AT, but even just having the ruined buildings option for AT, because that is a rule, being able to replace with this stuff is going to be good. And I would imagine you're not going to need quite as many pieces to make some ruins as you are going to have to make an entire blocking piece of terrain. So that's really good. I'm really hoping that they release those in those, what was it called last time, like the Civitas Sector or something, which was like 3 or 4 boxes of terrain.
All jammed into one.
Yeah. I'll definitely be picking up as much of that as I can afford. But the other piece of terrain, which was kind of hidden in plain sight, is it very much looks like we're getting some tiles.
Oh yeah, the old Realm of Battle boards or equivalent are back. What do you reckon? Are they going to be Necromunda-sized tiles, or are they going to be the old 2x2 big boards?
I would like it to be the 2x2 Realm of Battle boards, but looking at the images that we've got out there at the moment, I reckon that they probably are going to be the same as the Necromunda ones, which will be the 1 foot by 1 foot packs of 4. So it's going to be quite expensive to make a 6x4 out of it. But
have they confirmed that it is going to be 6x4 yet?
No, I reckon it'll be 4x4.
I reckon it'll be 4x4 as well.
Certainly to start with, but I mean, if I was buying 4x4 of this, I would probably buy 6x4, just so I've got it available. If I wanted to do a bigger game, but it does look really good. It looks quite flat and quite thin, which is what makes me think that it's going to be the same as the Necromunda style tiles. But it'll be nice to have something a bit more visual than just a battle mat to play on, although I do like playing on battle mats, but having a bit of depth and a bit of definition, I just won't enjoy painting it because that's going to take me hours.
That's going to take so long.
I think you and I are going to be doing a lot of terrain painting over the next 6 months before Beachhead. But did you notice as well? So there was one more piece of terrain which they announced, which looked like a new Aegis defense line.
Okay.
So slide 8 on my slide if you're looking at my slides.
Oh yeah, so there are. Yeah.
So yeah, some new Aegis defense lines as well. Whether that will be separate or included as part of another pack, maybe we'll get something equivalent to, like a Civitas set, and then like they've got the Manufactorum set at the moment for AT. If there'll be something like that, but it is more geared to this. But there's a cheeky little barrel poking out the top of that image, and that barrel isn't referenced in any other image that we've seen so far. So I think, and the guys in the local scene agree, GW are doing their usual thing of hiding something in plain sight.
In plain sight, yeah.
Difficult to tell what it is. I'm not sure. It looks like it's got a grey cupola at the back, or cupola at the back, which makes me believe that this is going to be likely a solar auxiliary tank.
It's what's the anti tank, anti-titan? Is it the Vindicator, the one with the really long barrel? The barrel doesn't look very long at all, though.
Well, the thing is unless they've angled that turret, you can't see the rest of the tank. If it was a super heavy, like a Shadow Sword equivalent or something like that, then you would expect to see the front of the tank kind of poking out the front. So I'm not sure what that is, to be honest. It looks like it's sporting some kind of battle cannon. But if you've got any ideas on that, stick it in the comments. Be great to hear what other people are thinking about. But yeah, definitely something there which we haven't seen yet.
Oh yeah. God, I'm so excited. I'm so ready.
Yeah.
Can they just release it now, please? Can I get started?
What are you? So what's your plans for LI? What are you going to? What are you doing?
I'm gonna go for the OG. Well, maybe not OG, but the main bad guys. So Sons of Horus. I've always liked the look of them, but in kind of everything I've done within like the Horus Heresy space, I've kind of avoided them for Word Bearers, Emperor's Children, Night Lords, etc. So I thought, let's give the these guys a shot. And plus, I have a few 3D printed Marines in Sons of Horus colors on my bases of my Titans already, so they seem to line up pretty well. And yeah, I've got a really good sea green contrast paint, so I'm just gonna slop that stuff on and and hope for the best.
Good idea.
Yeah, I just especially if we're gonna do some of the Siege of Terror stuff maybe in the future, you've got to have the Sons of Horus,
the big bads.
Yeah. Don't know what we're gonna do about the Titans yet in the box though, but
opportunity to mess around, have a go at something, see what we can do.
What about yourself?
I did, before we move on to that, I did see quite a funny meme which somebody had put up on the AT18 Facebook page, which was a picture of the box, the front of the LI box, and it just said Adeptus Titanicus Premium Basing Kit.
Hell yeah.
Which did tickle me. I was like, that's going to get used a lot in AT. Now that they finally confirmed it.
The dioramas as well.
Yeah, because I've always avoided sticking anything on my Titans because I had a inkling that this was going to be released at some point and it would be a different scale to whatever I printed my stuff at, and it wouldn't look right. So I'm definitely going to be going back and adding a few of these to my Gryphonicus or to my probably my Tempestus. But yeah, I'm obviously doing the White Scars. So my first month of Clash of Legions is going to be I've got 3 Xiphon Interceptors and a Thunderhawk, which I'm going to paint up in Legion colours. So again, stuff that's been sort of kicking around, not painted. I'm going to use those as my tests while I wait for the rest of LI to drop and I can start painting other bits and pieces. But yeah, I'm doing Imperial Fists. Johnny from Battle Bling, he's doing Blood Angels. We've got John from Battle Bling is doing World Eaters. Matt from Maximal Fire is doing Dark Angels. Oliver is doing Emperor's Children. And Ben is going to do Ultramarines, but he's going to do the Destroyer Company because he doesn't want to paint blue and he wants to paint bad. Bad? He wants to paint black. He wants to paint black.
Should have just played Raven Guard.
Yeah. Well, I think and these got they do have some quite cool fluff, the Destroyer Companies. So yeah, we kind of pointed out that certainly from the point of view of the traitors, we've got the OG bad guys. Emperor's Children, World Eaters, Sons of Horus. It's a shame none of us are doing Raven Guard, Iron Hands, and Salamanders. Really,
the Drop Site Massacre would be awesome. It'd be so sick.
It did nearly make me want to pivot, but apart from me, we do have Imperium Secundus there, Dark Angels, and Blood Angels, and Ultramarines.
See, I could switch to Word Bearers.
Could switch to Word Bearers.
That would be so good.
I've already made up all of the imagery, so you can't. You got to stick.
Okay, there we go. That's it. We're locked in.
That's it now. Yeah. So I'm going to be using these as my testers and seeing if I enjoy painting white. But there's part of me which does say that I really want to do a jet bike army, and they've teased, of course, we're going to get epic scale Primarchs as well, which are going to be super cute.
I am ready for the Demon Primarch Fulgrim epic scale mini to return, because that used to be a mini, and there is no way they're not remaking that for epic. No way.
I wonder how quickly as well they're going to announce Mechanicum.
I would like to see some Mechanicum, Dark Mechanicum.
Next year, maybe?
Yeah. I reckon there's too much happening for this year.
Yeah, and like you say, I think that there will be... Whether or not they will use Mechanicum to be either and then just change on the weapons that are available to them, or if they'll make it two very different looking forces, which I hope they do, because Dark Mechanicum can be quite visually different. So
I feel like they'll probably, at least for the mainline infantry, be the same. I don't know. I would
Custodies and Silent Sisters as well.
Yeah, I mean they said they're doing everything right, so they're just going to follow the Horus Heresy train of having like generic battle line main units, and then have a pool of Legion specific characters or units, iconic units, which they've said they're doing as available add-ons.
I would hope that what they do is they release a Blood Angels detachment, and that comes with Sanguinius, and it comes with the Legion specific stands, and you would have like one box which would have everything specific to that force.
Cool.
Because like I say, everything else is more or less transposable. One of the things I did see, which was quite which tickled me, is that there will be the option of having closed cupolas or like little dudes hanging out the top.
Yeah,
which is going to be great.
It's going to be so cool. It'll be a bit fiddly, but
I think I can't imagine that GW will pass up an opportunity to get as much money out of people as possible when it comes to like the Primarchs and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if Primarchs are a separate thing, but I would like to see. Here is your Blood Angels detachment. I'm going to sneeze, so I'm going to pause my.
It's really funny because I kind of need to sneeze at the same time as well. Oh dear. It's just hit us at the same time.
Yes, too much excitement and dust sniffing. Yeah. So I like the idea of having like a little mini attachment of Custodes, sort of walking around with my my White Scars. So yeah. Okay. So, like, I mean, we've actually kind of boiled up most of this stuff quite quickly, but we do plan on doing an AT event. It's AT event, LI event. That's going to take some getting used
Yeah,
to.
here we go.
So we are currently, we don't know what it's going to look like, but we've booked in the 11th of November at Entoyment in Poole for a 1-day LI event. It will probably be narrative, I would have thought. We'll try and keep it quite easygoing, accessible for new players, because we'll probably be learning the game as much as you guys. So
Yeah.
not a tournament at this point yet, but we will be looking to get something in the calendar. And like I say, we're discussing at the moment whether or not it's possible to get something up for Beachhead. On the subject of Beachhead, the plan is that we're going to be doing teams again. That seemed very popular last time round, so something that we wanted to support. And we'd probably be looking at doing a similar amount of participants as last year, which was around about 48. And tickets will be going up and event packs will be being sent out in the next week or so. And they will be available through Entoyment as a team ticket. So similar to last time, you will buy a team ticket, and that will cover all of you. Unless something drastically changes, it will be teams of 3. To keep things simple. Highlight of my tournament year, Beachhead. It's always a good laugh. Although we've just done our summer event, it was a 1-dayer. It was nice to just do a 1-dayer, to be honest. Certainly from my perspective, it was so much easier to run. And
a lot more relaxed.
Yeah, but the guys were great as well. We had 26 players at Entoyment. Really good vibe. Nice to see sort of new people who I'd not seen before. One guy, Chris Williams, never met the guy before. He won it, which is great to see a new winner there.
Hell yeah.
John and Johnny from Battle Bling both also did really, really well. They came in 2nd and 3rd. Ben, who hasn't played for 18 months, came back and he placed reasonably well as well. I think certainly in the top 10, only losing to Johnny, who came 2nd. And yeah, some Steve Homer from Tabletop Standards walked away with both the wooden spoon for an impressive demonstration in how not to score victory points, but also the best painted for his absolutely stunning Legio Magna. And if you've not seen them or don't know what we're talking about, go over to Tabletop Standard on YouTube, check out some of their battle reports. I'm sure there'll be multiple battle reports with his Magna in it, and you'll be able to see exactly what we're talking about. But it was great to see the Tabletop Standard guys again. All 3 of them were down here. Tony Greenwood, Chris Revel, who's the main voice of Tabletop Standard, and Steve Homer as well. So really appreciated those guys turning up, and it was a great weekend. Do you have any thoughts on it?
It was awesome. It did feel like there were a lot of new faces for such a kind of like a small event, if you know what I mean. Well, not small event, but 1-day event. Usually when we do these bigger events, that's when you see a lot of new faces because people can kind of justify traveling a little bit further to go to them. So it was really cool. Everyone was chill. It wasn't too hot as well. The aircon was working in some places. I think Battle Bling Johnny was trying to bribe us to let him stay on the air-conned tables, to the point that he was willing to accept yellow cards. So fair play to him. Man knows what he wants.
There was no kind of willingness there. He wasn't moving. No. There was nothing that we were going to do to get him off that table. So we had, he was being his usual diva self, and we just had to bow to him eventually.
Oh, you think it's an act? It's not an act. This man's a diva. That's why we love him.
But did you know as well? We had a guy called Carsten Schindler. Did you know that he flew in for the day from Germany?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's wicked.
Yeah, so that's the 2nd international tournament that we've done. But yeah, massively appreciate. I couldn't quite believe that when he told me. Yeah, didn't even kind of realize at the time, but massive dedication. I don't think he came over I think he spent a few days in around Bournemouth as well. But great to see that people want to fly in from all over the continents to come to our events. So yeah, really good stuff. Kind of, I've had a bit of a break from all things AT, so you may notice things have been a bit quiet on Discord from me, and also I've not put out any videos recently. It's been an incredibly hectic 6 months of this year. We put out 14 or 15 YouTube videos in the first 6 months. We've run Beachhead, we ran the Warhammer World meetup. I attended a 2-day tournament in Swansea. I attended a one-day tournament in Newcastle, which I won, by the way. When we did that whole episode on how to play competitively, I then followed that up by winning. So, putting my money where my mouth is. But I'm modest about that sort of stuff. I'm very humble. So it's been a lot of painting AT again, a lot of terrain for AT. So I have last month, if people have been wondering where I've been, I've been having a little bit of a detox before I kind of get
preparation.
Yeah, because I knew this was coming as well. I was like, I don't want to lose my hobby mojo and get burnt out. But that tournament, as it always seems to does, like kicked me right back into gear and has kind of given me a good injection of enthusiasm for the game and for getting stuff done. So you'll probably notice a few little bits and pieces. I spent all day today completely rebranding Maximal Fire. So we've got new logos, new banners. If you go onto our YouTube page, it now looks a whole load sexier. We've got new images and new articles up on our website. We're going to be releasing a new article in the coming days or weeks based on our Meta Watch series. So Matt is currently going through all of the numbers again. We're also getting in some numbers from Jim's Twisted Titanicus event, the doubles a few months ago, and kind of looking like where are the stats at, who's playing what mana pools, what legios are being done. So that article will be going up on our website relatively soon, maybe by the time that this goes out, but it might still be another week or so, because a lot of data there to go through, a lot of numbers to crunch, but always really interesting stuff. When we did that for Beachhead, most looked at article of all of our articles.
Oh yeah. He doesn't want to know all the nitty-gritty details of the local Southern England meta, right? Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. But we did, like I said, I have put up an article today. That was my TO's perspective of the event that we just run. So that's up there, new to read, along with a load of new photos and stuff for the event. Some gorgeous looking Titans. Go check that out, and that is on our website, maximalfire.com. Right, I think we have come to the end of yet another episode of episode 25 of Maximal Fire. Do like and subscribe us on YouTube, please. We're climbing the numbers. We're hoping that we'll get a new injection of listeners from the LI community as people start picking this game up. But do give us a like. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It obviously helps us with our reach on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on a podcast platform like Apple Podcasts, do give us a rating. If you want to leave us a review as well, that would be absolutely awesome. Please do so. And if you're not part of our Discord community and you use Discord, check out the link in our description below and get involved in our Discord community. It's one of the best places for talking AT. Lots of experienced people in there. We have hobby hangouts. People share their lists. It's probably the best place for AT discussion. If you like a more of a forum chat rather than on like what we see on Facebook and Instagram, those sort of things. So yeah, any final words, Johnny? Anything you want to discuss before we close up the show today?
Give me Demons of the Ruin Storm by the end of the year, please, in LI, and I will not spend anything else on any other hobby bar this until the end of the year. I promise.
Yeah, let's get that request into GW and make sure they keep you happy, eh?
It's manifesting, right? Just let's go. Want to see it.
Perfect. All right then, guys. Well, hopefully won't have quite as big a gap before the next one. I think we're going to aim to try and get out maybe another one of these or another couple of these, depending on how much content they drop between now and release date. We'll try and keep on top of anything new which is dropping, and we'll hopefully see you again very, very soon. So do remember, guys, as always, thanks for joining us, and go big, go loud,
and go Maximal.